Lift C.
Revolutionizing architecture and the way we live. And now intelligence means we can connect systems and services across the globe, so we can all see life from a much better perspective. That's what we do. Who are we? We are Schindler. We elevate. What if the world was flat? Skyscrapers would be side scrapers. Cities would never end. Things would look very different. Everything would take more time. Much more time. Spectacular views would simply not exist. Our world could have turned out like this if it wasn't for one idea. An idea that changed everything. An elevated world. Inspiring transportation systems that help the world grow up.
Lift C.
Revolutionizing architecture and the way we live. And now intelligence means we can connect systems and services across the globe, so we can all see life from a much better perspective. That's what we do. Who are we? We are Schindler. We elevate. What if the world was flat? Skyscrapers would be side scrapers. Cities would never end. would look very different. Everything would take more time. Much more time. Spectacular views would simply not exist. Our world could have turned out like this if it wasn't for one idea. An idea that changed everything. An elevated world. Inspiring transportation systems that help the world grow up.
Lift.
Revolutionizing architecture and the way we live. And now intelligence means we can connect systems and services across the globe, so we can all see life from a much better perspective. That's what we do. Who are we? We are
Okay,
Schindler.
so how do you do that?
We elevate.
Okay, like this, and then
What if the world was flat? Skyscrapers would be side scrapers. Cities would never end. Things would look very different. Everything would take more time. Much more time. Spectacular views would simply not exist. Our world could have turned out like this if it wasn't for one idea. An idea that changed everything. An elevated world. Inspiring transportation systems that help the world grow up.
Lift.
Revolutionizing architecture and the way we live. And now intelligence means we can connect systems and services across the globe, so we can all see life from a much better perspective. That's what we do. Who are we? We are Schindler. We elevate. What if the world was flat? Skyscrapers would be side scrapers. Cities would never end. Things would look very different. Everything would take more time. Much more time. Spectacular views.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. I can kindly ask you to take your seats so we can continue our day and go on to our third session. Just as important as the first two. Session 3, we're going to be looking at our opportunities in the different perspectives on technical and vocational education and training. I have the pleasure and the honor to moderate this session. But firstly, of course, I want to thank Zada. Thank you very much for the wonderful job you did in the session previous to this. And I feel that this has been a very educational, open dialogue that really shares experiences and knowledge and brings us all together closer as a private sector, government, Egyptians, and our international community, specifically Switzerland today. So with as we move along, please, I would like to ask Dr. Mohammed Mogahed, Deputy Minister of Education and Technical Education, to join me on the stage, please. Also, Ms. Valérie Lichty, Head of the Office of International Cooperation, the Embassy of Switzerland in Egypt, and Mr. Mahmoud Bazan, the Chairman of Swiss Egyptian Business Association. Please, if you may join me on the stage. Okay, sound test, fine? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very, very much for being with us here today and continuing this open, invigorating, and very interesting and timely discussion on one of the issues that, once again, I repeat this, has been hindering Egypt's real potential for progress and growth. Now, what we had earlier this morning was a private sector session looking at the impact, whether a positive or negative impact on Swiss private sector businesses in Egypt. Now, we were talking about this whole thing of cultural and values, what we say in Egyptian, sulukiyat. That I think that's the right expression. But with the advent of multinational companies from around the world, not just from Switzerland, from a lot of other parts of the world, that come to Egypt with their own systems, with their own trainings, with their own culture, corporate culture I'm talking about, with their own structures. They have with them imported to Egypt an attitude, a system, a belief. And we see these in these Swiss companies. When you walk into their factories, when you walk into their offices, you feel that you have taken a step out of Egypt and a step into Switzerland. And this happens on a multitude of levels in different companies and multinationals around the world. So already, we have taken advantage of years and years of experience being brought to Egypt. But again, it is not enough. There is much more to be done. And Switzerland, having gone to university in Switzerland myself, I would call it my second home in a sense, we have seen what it means and how proud technicians, mechanics, and if you want to call it blue-collar workers, how proud they are of what they do. And we cannot downgrade or downplay the importance of technical knowledge and education. In an era of digitalization specifically, it is becoming more and more complicated. With technology advancing at amazing rates, today it has been even more complicated, or it becomes even more complicated for you to be a successful technician. And this is the type of spirit that we would like to bring into the Egyptian culture. And what better model to look at, despite the many, many differences, that can inspire us as Egyptians and inspire the way that we think not only as a private sector, but also as government institutions, civil society, on the way that we approach TVET. And hence, I will, with your permission, start with Valerie, because it's very important for people to understand what we're talking about here. Why? What makes the Swiss vocational training and education system so unique? And how can we be inspired by it? So, if you'd allow me, just to make an introduction and showcase the things that we can, as we move along, be inspired by the Swiss model. And your slides are ready.
Hello. Yes. Ashraf, it's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you very much for this introductory remarks, which paved the way for me to introduce these first slides. I decided to show you an illustration of what the Swiss education system is. It has been presented many times this morning, but with words, not with what it how it is represented. I'm very glad with this first remark as well, because representing here the international cooperation at the Swiss Embassy, it's important to say right away that in the international cooperation we do not bring a model of. We have been, we are the result, and I'm glad you had this experience as well, going through this Swiss education system, so we know it well. It has evolved though through time, and this is the result of a long history. How shall I present that? As you see, it's quite of a complex thing. I'm not going to present it into details because this will be a bit boring, but let me highlight maybe three main aspects that could be of interest for us in the discussion today. The first important thing in this Swiss education system, I'm saying education system because TVET and VSD, Vocational Skills Development, is part of a system, which is the education system, and which is based on a very strong pillar, which is the yellow box you have on the bottom of this image illustration. This yellow box is the basic education. In Switzerland, basic education is compulsory, it's 12 years, and it's of good quality. So if you look at that image, you understand that all the rest of the system is based on that very strong pillar, which is the compulsory basic education, meaning the youth do close and their basic education at the age of 15 years old. At that age, and that's my second point, they will have options. That's very important. You may recall when you were 15 years old, it's probably the period in your life when you like to take own decision. And the whole system is based on that. It's an own decision of the youth to decide to go for vocational education training or general education. And the whole system, the basic education system, prepares every student to take that decision at 15 years old. The decision is not taken by the parents. The decision is taken by the youth. Will he do vocational, she or he do vocational training or general education to go through the more academic system as it has been highlighted this morning. So that pattern shows you that on the left-hand side, it is the professional, vocational professional education, and on the right is the classical academic, general education. So what happens in Switzerland? Most of the youth at that age decide for vocational education. So that box, as a matter of fact, here is bigger than the other one. It's a green box. It does not represent the exact number of Switzerland, but I take it as an example because it's a bigger box, so you can see that it's what it is preferred. 2/3, or at least even sometimes up to 80% of the students at that age would go for that option. Why would they go for that option? And that's my third point about the system. Because, and it has been highlighted previously by Mr. Baumgartner, the certificate that they get after 3 years is recognized both in the labor market and within the education system. So it is a very solid paper that they have in hand. And now, I told you before, the system have evolved, and that's the second important part, as the apprenticeship, if we see that kind of training system, the entry point in that system is the contract that he or she is signing with the company. Without a contract, no access to a training center. So at the end of that 3 or 4 years of vocational training, they get the diploma, which is recognized all over Switzerland and even in Europe for some of them. And that is a very important aspect, because they may keep this diploma, being very proud of it and being successful with it. But they may also be able to go through the system, and you'll see all these arrows are actually the pathways that have been created throughout the time in this system. The possibility to go from the left-hand side of the system to the right is possible. And you also have students at the age of 15 who would decide for general education, but then would prefer to go to a technical higher ed school, which is also possible. So there are pathways in both ways, which gives a high credibility of all the different stages and the certification which are given. Let me just give you an example. In the history, if you take the banking sector, for a very, very long time, in the boards of the banks in Switzerland, you would have no academics. These were not allowed. Only board member of bank in Switzerland were coming from the professional type of education. And that was the credibility of the bank. They needed people who do exactly know what was it about. And I would say that in this system, the creation of this system, the pathways, I mean, the acceptance, or social acceptance, has more gone from the professional to the academic than reverse. So just to highlight that. Maybe let's, if I have one more minute, show you the second slide that I have prepared for you. So basically, TVET is integrated to an education system, and it can only work with the integration of the private sector. This has been said many times this morning. This is what we call dual system. What is important there to highlight is that the apprentices, they spend more time at the workplace than in the training center. So that's something that has been said already. It's their own decision, and they are responsible for that. Second important thing is in the curricula, so the relationship between the private sector and the education system is that the companies are involved in the design of the curricula. And this is to ensure the relevance of the skills development and to ensure this continuum that we work very much upon within our international cooperation, which is basic education, professional, vocational skills development, and labor market integration. This is a whole set, and that makes it relevant in this regard. On that slide, let me just check if I have one more thing to highlight. Yes, I said curricula. Two more things important. The whole system works at local level. It works because the companies do hire young people from the same area. And I think that is very important in the whole dynamic, that at the end of that apprenticeship, they get a certificate which is recognized everywhere so they can move. But it works well because the apprentices, they are chosen from the local area. So, And then there is, and last thing I wanted to highlight, there is a shared responsibility for that system to work. I don't want to present all the hours, you can read yourself. Is this shared responsibility, not only in the curricular design, in the involvement of the apprentice, because he himself or herself signed the contract, they need to engage in that contract, but also in the financing. You know, the whole system is not funded only by the public sector, but it's a shared responsibility from the apprenticeship, who is working, earning money, the company, industries, and the training providers, meaning the public sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I move to Dr. Mogahed, just out of my own personal curiosity regarding this, I mean, when you formulate this, let's say, national policy, I mean, if we look at your political system in Switzerland, it's all divided into cantons. I mean, you have a very interesting, complicated, but simplified, or a simple, complicated political system. The decisions are more regarding Tibet and this process. Is it more on a national, federal level, or is it more on a canton level? So where does that, how can we say, how does each canton look at it, or is it just one strategy that you have that is being implemented federally?
In Switzerland,
Yes.
for the technical vocational training certificate, it is at federal level.
Federal.
Very clearly, that's how it has been created, and that's what makes it very strong. The lobby of the professional association are very strong, and they are structured, and they contribute to that design and to that recognition, which is, by the way, not the case of the universities. The universities are first cantonal,
Right.
from the canton, and then they are regulated through the confederation. But mainly they are first, their subsidies are coming from the canton first. Whereas this reverse for the technical applied schools or technical applied university, they get more subsidy from the confederation.
But I don't want to go into the details of it. I'm sure it's a much more complicated issue, but why would Switzerland select to do higher education in a decentralized manner, but did, you know, the vocational training or applies it on a centralized approach?
That is mainly due to that dual system based on the role of the private sector. Because the private sector are not going to hire a young person who is living the other side of the country to work as an apprentice in their industry or company or services. So it is very locally organized, but they are prepared for the examination, which is recognized as a federal certificate.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I'll come back to you, Valerie, and we'll talk more about Switzerland's international cooperation strategy for 2021 to 2024, I believe. And from there, we can see how Egypt can be inspired by this wonderful model. Thank you. I have the honor, of course, to have Dr. Mohamed Mogahed with us here today. And as I said earlier, one of the people that has been a driving force in closing this major gap that we have between the demand of the private sector for technical labor and education. You've heard Dr. Mogahed this morning. You know more than all of us that we do have an issue. You heard from the private sector, the Swiss private sector today. I'm sure that is something that you hear in a lot of other forums and from a lot of other countries as well. One of the things that came to my mind earlier as we were talking about during the first session is when we talk about engineers and technicians. And it comes to my mind, the concept visually for me is hiring a doctor to do a nurse's job. In a sense, if that I you know, this is how I visualized it in my mind. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Again, decades. I know that there has been major improvement. We cannot blame really the Egyptian government. We cannot really blame them for this. As I was saying, the population growth rate that 2.7%. We're talking about almost 2 million people, 2-point-something million people. Now it's about 2.7 million people a year. So for every problem that we solve in Egypt, whether in education, whether in healthcare, whether in technical and vocational training, if we build a school, by the end of the month we need another 10 schools. If we build a hospital, by the end of the month we need another 10 hospitals, and it continues. But our belief as Egyptians is that Egypt can absorb all of this growth, that has the potential for it to be able to employ all Egyptians in the next probably 2 or 3 decades. We have that belief. Now, the most important thing is for us to be able to put the system through or working hand in hand with our international partners, localizing these systems that fit better with our cultural approach to technical and vocational training. It will take us some time. We do have challenges, Doctor, but I know that there's a lot of effort being done, and I would like to take this opportunity for us to maybe discuss a little bit, or you can present to us this concept of the model of applied technology schools, in addition to what we have been discussing earlier this morning. Dr. Mougaid, you have.
Thank you so much. Will allow me to go there and then come back.
As you wish. You've got the clicker, and I think they can put the presentation here, but please.
Of course, I'm very happy with the comments. The Egyptian-style problems of preferring universities, preferring a higher degree than a technician. And before I go into my presentation, I have a thought while sitting listening to all these comments, that young Egyptian mothers, when they talk to their kids, when they are very little, they what would you like to be when you grow up? There are only 2 answers in Egypt: an engineer or a doctor. There is no electrical technician, nothing else. It's only those 2. Of course, there are changes. So the ideal situation is that mothers and parents do not interfere. And the hope for that will come after really reforming our whole education system. We are moving in the basic education stage into a student-centered education. So the student at the age of 15 will take the decision himself, not his parents. That's at least our hope. There are other comments that I will say while my presentation, but this thought I thought to share with you. I'm not blaming mothers, but that's the fact. There are jobs in Egypt that are very much liked by families, very much liked by people when they go and get married, for example. These are facts of life. We are trying to change it by changing our basic education into a student-centered education. Not parent-centered, not professor-centered, but student-centered. And technology is helping us to do that. So I'll go back to the applied technology schools and brief you on the development. Since September 2018, the ministry has already kicked off the establishment of a network of applied technology schools. It's considered as a new system, even the wording, applied technology schools, not technical school. And the aim of that is to have a new name, a new perception, something that's more to the liking of young people. So it's considered as a new system of technical education based on partnership between government, as represented by the ministry, and private sector, and very importantly, quality assurance institution or body. This combination attempts, of course, to ensure that the ATS reaches its highest possible potential with the final aim of getting international accreditation for the school and its program. Again, this is a new element in Egyptian technical education. Now, what has been achieved until now, as I said in my earlier presentation, 3 schools were established in 2018, 8 schools were established in 2019, and 5 have been established in 2020 or are being established. In fact, the latest protocol will be signed in perhaps 2 hours from now. And the network includes currently 16 schools and aims to reach at least 100 applied technology schools by 2030. Of course, the partnership aims at providing developed workforce that targets transforming Egypt into a global manufacturing destination, despite the fact that this could not be immediately achieved, focusing on quality through partnership with international quality assurance bodies, maintain balance between work-based learning in an industrial environment and classroom learning. Some call it as a form of Egyptian dual system, earning to produce a competitive human beings with a balanced personal character and skills foundation capable of self-learning during his whole life. Why is that? Because technology is changing very fast, and all kids, all graduates of our schools has to be capable of self-learning. Involvement of industrial bodies to ensure applied technology schools are meeting the local and global market trends. The aims, of course, I think I have the applied international standards in modern teaching, evaluation and education curricula, competency-based curricula, and the competency-based is focused actually not only about knowledge, about skills, but also the behaviors. The behaviors and the values and of the graduate is very important and is actually inherited in the curriculum and in the exercises that the students do. Providing a distinct educational environment for the student and teacher in the school and the practical training facilities, preparing graduates who are qualified to work in the local and international markets, establishing modern technological specialization. You will see some of them shortly that are compatible with the global market, preparing the best teachers and mentors according to the latest international standards. The advantage for the students, they receive an Egyptian certificate of international quality together with a certificate for the training certificate certified from the private sector partner, opportunities to be recruited by distinguished industrial partner, including the partner who is partnering with the school himself, obtaining financial reward for participation in internship period, obtaining practical experience during their training in the industrial environment. For teachers, they become part of a continuously developing modern work environment based on continuous monitoring and evaluation. Teacher performance, they can receive extensive moral and material incentives covered by the industrial partner. That's something new. Receiving practical experience that contributes to the building of a distinguished scientific core that's beneficial to our community. Receiving continuous and high quality training by certified experts. The role of the ministry is to provide the school. Actually, the 16 schools that we have established, only one of them was provided by the industrial partner, and the other 15 are provided by the Ministry of Education. It's buildings that either new or being used but being transformed to be an applied technology school. We select school teachers from among the ministry teachers on competitive basis, and we, through the co-management of the school, if the teacher is not, the performance is not satisfactory, we either take him back to his traditional school and we allow the company to hire new teachers and of course to pay for them. So we provide as much as we can, but we aim to enhance the performance of the teachers in order for the system to continue growing. Plays a major role in designing the competency-based curriculum based on the needs of the industrial partners. Plays a major role in continuous monitoring and evaluation of the teacher performance. Plays a major role in selecting new students from among students who finish the requirements of the 9 years of basic education. The role of the private sector provides, of course, proper training facilities for students, certified student training at this facility, provides monthly financial reward to students during training or work, commitment to provide employment opportunity to highly ranking students following their graduation, provides financial incentives to teachers, based on the result of their performance, takes part in selection of teachers and students, supports school training equipment and facilities when needed, hires quality assurance body to lead continuous monitoring and evaluation, establish and manage a vocational training center to serve the surrounding community and contributes to the sustainability of the school. These are some photos of the first applied technology schools. This, in fact, is with the Toshiba Al-Arabi School in El Menofia, and those students are actually graduating this year with a diploma. Of course, the benefits for the private sector are many. I will not waste time with this, but I have said all of it. The benefits for the ministry, it's obvious by now. I'll go directly into the rest of the school, the list of the schools. The first school was with the Al-Arabi group, and it takes 144 students per year. The applicants in the first year were something like 900 students. Why is that? I refer it to myself to two things. To the economic reform. Families want their kids to go to the market quickly, and families and kids, they want to associate with a successful company like Al-Arabi. And of course, and this is very important, that when the company is well established, it has a good reputation in the market. People are seeking jobs in this country at the end. So this actually brings students. You don't have 900 students without a reason. In fact, for this school, I had applications from Alexandria. Although the school, we advertise that it will take people from only Menofia and Kaluia, and two specific cities. So despite that, people come and say, oh no, we will find our own accommodation and we will manage. So this was the first one. If you look at the majors, electrical installation, air conditioning, mechanical manufacturing. These are the majors that the industrial partner wants. Now, this particular industrial partners is thinking about establishing some more specializations in, for example, retail business, because he has centers around the country which sells his component, maintenance of his products. So this is growing up into something like a center of excellence that would serve all home appliances manufacturers in Egypt. The second one was with Talat Mustafa Group for construction, and this also has been very successful. The majors are architectural, furnishing, air conditioning, architecture, trading, and the interesting thing about this school is that it has a lot of enrollment by girls, and in fact, it's interesting to compare in Egypt the behaviors of and how girls think of technical education as compared to boys, and in fact, the girls are more committed. There are certain businesses that they like ready-made garments. But the interesting thing about Talat Mustafa Group is also that the girls like it very much. Of course, here, why Talat Mustafa decided to do this school? Because of, he of course, a very famous construction group, and he's thinking of the new cities, the smart cities, the requirements of these smart cities, not the traditional building of the 60s and 70s. That's why he's having, this school has a profession in the school of facility management, for example. So this is different. This is addressing the future. The third school was in Badr City by the specialization is mechatronics. This was the first time we introduced this specialization, and the companies, this is a consortium of two companies actually, Elmaco and Egytrafco, and this is interesting because we are newcomers to this project. I mean, we actually need to enhance our knowledge how to manage consortiums. What if they differ together? And this happens. So we are learning from our mistakes. Now, we have two schools in coordination with the Ministry of Military Production. And when I say military, I don't want the audience to take this as they are manufacturing arms all the time. Every Egyptian knows that the military production, actually most of the production is civil products. So again, these schools were in existence, but اللي هو العصار الله يرحمه, when he heard about the applied technology schools, he wants to take the brand. He wants to change the curriculum into applied technology schools and to do the quality assurance, all what we are doing to brand his schools by this trend. Now, we have with Americana Group Food and Restaurant Management. This is a school that serves fast food requirements, fast food business. With IBM and the Alfie organization, we have a school in information technology, and this is in Shuruk City. And the interesting thing about this school is that we discovered that a good portion of the students who apply to the school are actually graduates of basic education who studies the basic education fully in English. And that's something new for technical education. Why did he come here? Because of IBM, because of the IT, because some of the students, I mean, they are so good to the extent that they came to the school at the age of 15 and they have their own designs of applications into their mobiles. So this is a change. Yes, they could go to universities, but at this age and at the graduation, IBM may offer them jobs, for example. So next one is with the French Chamber of Commerce, and is it Schneider, Ahmed? Schneider Company, electrical maintenance. This particular program, we tried it, and this is going to be certified by an organization in southern France. Next is Suwaidi, and this is the bigger brother of Ahmed Suwaidi, is Mohammed Suwaidi. This is in Diyar Benigm in Sharqiya, and we are very proud of this school because it's outside Greater Cairo area. This ATS, we want to geographically spread it, not contain it in Greater Cairo, where most of the economic activities happen. In agricultural technology in Salhiya, between Sharqiya and Ismailia. Jewelry making with a company called Egypt Gold. And this has been a school of a particular interest. First of all, we did not imagine that the enrollment rate at the school, the requests of enrollment, thousands of students, girls in particular, because this is with a company working in the manufacturing of jewelry, and the amount of enrollment, even not from Egypt alone, from some African countries and Arab countries, is tremendous. And in this particular school, the company has really made the advertising for their company through the school of tremendous value to them. This is Egypt Telecom. We is also making a school with us this year in applications like IT technology, computer technologies, electronic systems, electrical system, and they asked actually that this particular school, the study would be fully in English because of the technology. And they intend to make 5 more schools during the next few years. In BTech, the company for retail trade, marketing, sales, logistics, and retail trade. Now, in 2021, we have also a school with a new company, Egyptian-Chinese company called HSCT for electronic systems, working on monitoring and alarm technologies, artificial intelligence, digital games, digital arts. And this request actually had come to us immediately after the COVID-19 crisis, because all these jobs are required as post-COVID jobs. Again, the studies here are going to be in English. This is the agreement that I'm going to sign today, milk product manufacturing in Port Said, and this particular company, in fact, is of very high quality. In fact, it exports its product to almost 15 countries around the world, including Russia and Saudi Arabia. The last school is interesting. We signed it yesterday. It is with the Egyptian Academy of Arts. And the school is in the Academy of Art itself. What are the specialization technologies required for artistic performance? I don't mean here the actors or the producers. I mean here people who are taking care of the lighting, sound, photography, artistic effects, makeup, disguises, and so on. From what we heard yesterday from Dr. Ashraf Zaki, who is the head of this academy and the Minister of Culture, some of these jobs are going nowhere. No more people in Egypt. So we have to intervene in order to make them alive. Now, of course, we have established a unit for management and operation at the ministry, and the funding of this unit we have obtained through one of our international partners, funded from the Italian-Egyptian DITSWA program. Now, this is the plan of going into 2030 with 100 schools. What are the challenges? This is my last word. We need to make balanced geographical spread of applied technology soon. We have not properly achieved that yet. 12 schools are out of the 16 schools are within Greater Cairo. This is, of course, because of the economic activity. The partnership with major private sector partners dominates the current partnership. We need to make better alliances with alliances and corporate partnership. It needs to be encouraged and investigated. Private sector companies in Swiss Egyptian Business Association are invited to cooperate with Ministry of Education to establish ATS school or centers of competencies in technical education, single partner or alliances. I mean, I heard, for example, in the last session that one company needs 100 technicians, but she can't find them within a country of 100 million. This is a shame. What we can do, come and establish the school. We will give you the school. We will make the curriculum together. Make a contract with the students to work for you after they finish. So this is the way to go further. The Ministry of Education, this is very interesting, and I told His Excellency about this. We have been approached before COVID-19 in March by a Swiss IT company called SmartBits. I met the man in Turin, in Italy, when travel was allowed, and by pure chance, we had breakfast together on the same table. And he asked me, what are we doing on technical education and so on. And all of a sudden he said, what about I come and establish a technical school in Egypt, in IT. This is, he told me that this is being established already in Switzerland and in Kosovo. The man is of a Kosovo origin, and in India. And he was trying to investigate whether Egypt can cooperate in this. And of course I said yes. And he has one condition which was very interesting. He said that I'm asking you whether students can make contracts with international companies so that they can work for them from home. Unfortunately, COVID did not make this materialize because he was coming here Ahmed was on the 22nd of March. So I asked him at the last minute, after he has his tickets, his hotel reservation, please don't come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor, for clarifying, and it's always very, very positive to see that we are moving forward and there are efforts that are being done. Let me go back to Valerie. Valerie, if we could understand the Swiss International Cooperation Strategy for 2021 and 2024 as a Swiss model and in the context of how does Egypt fit in that? I mean, there's a lot of effort happening from Switzerland on so many fronts, but on education, where are we going with that? Please.
If you like, we can go on
Please,
with the
if we can
PowerPoint.
have the rest of the slides.
It's the slide number 4, I think so. But let me right away answer to your question.
Please, they'll put it on for you right now.
For the time being, international cooperation in Egypt are supporting different types of project or which have like a TVET dimension, but not specifically, let's say, a TVET portfolio. So how does it fit in our new, that's the overarching reference document of the new international cooperation strategy. And we see here that one of the main objectives, this new strategy has actually 4 main objectives. It has been really focusing on these 4, and sustainable economic growth and market development and creation of decent job is one of the 4. The other are climate change, migration, with service delivery, and peace. So this is a very important one, and definitely like TVET activities and support would fit into that objective. And how, in cooperation with the private sector, it is very clearly mentioned. So this is our frame, but that's a very overarching frame. Now, what does happen in Egypt concretely? Maybe we can change slide, please. We do not have, as I said, like a specific program in TVET, but we are supporting different dimensions, as I highlighted before in the Swiss education system, like an inclusive vocational skills development, meaning like when I presented the Swiss education system, you saw that I put emphasis on the basic education, like that pillar. In different contexts, and that's also the case in Egypt, specifically towards the migration population, we need to target specific groups and provide specific support, which also includes basic skills. So it is not really formal as it is presented in that illustration of education system. It is more like what we call informal. In the informal sector, everything which is encompassed by the vocational skills development, which is a broader concept as the TVET, which is more about a formal approach. So there's different things, different type of supporting these, like now it's a bit, let's say, bits and parts that we are doing. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Nowadays we have like these 4 specific support. As you can see, these are not big budget, very important, but these are like what we have for the time being, different kind of support which targets migration population. This is the case of the community development services, or we have a regional project through the European EBRD, which encompass different kind of countries, and UNIDO as well, and like a specific pilot project within, it seems like broader in the GIZ, because you see it's a 10 million project. Still, it is a pilot with the Ministry of Higher Education on the specific curriculum on solid waste and e-waste management. So that is just at the end of that project, and it's a very small part of it. So if I did try to make this exercise, please, the next slide, to see where does it fit regarding to what I presented you, where do we support? So in that specific different project, actually we do support the specific apprenticeship part of the TVET system. The GIZ, as I said, is more about like curriculum design at a higher, like applied technical school. And the project targeting the migration population is more in the non-formal, informal sector, which is also part of the system, which has more importance in a context like Egypt. Next slide, please. There was, beginning of this year, a consultancy that was just before I arrived. I'm here since 2 months only. That has been done. So how can our program of international cooperation in Egypt do more in that sector of TVET and VSD? And these are like the main suggestion of the consultant, which basically encompass more of the different dimensions I've highlighted so far, so I don't want to be so long there. But the first thing is that we are a relevant partner in engaging in that sector precisely because of the dual VET system which is relevant to the needs. So specifically not only on initial vocational skills development program, but also on continuous, meaning these pathways going and supporting all the career paths, but also support the quality of the certification at the apprenticeship level and that social acceptance as well. Access and inclusion is more about our mandate, as well as including all the different kind of population, being those going through the having good basic education or not at different ages, and really having this strong link between public and private sector in terms of labor market integration. Industry solution is more about like the platform which exists now, I think, on skills development, and it's more like a recommendation to further to pursue that engagement. So last slide is about like a few sector of activity in which we were advised to engage in. We are already in a few of them in these different projects that we have in our portfolio. For instance, agriculture, electrical installation, wastewater management, and textile as well. So that is basically where we are already, but these are like quite of a broad spectrum of different kind of sector in which I do believe the Swiss companies present today are also engaged, and that is something which we will be keen on engaging in more dialogue and collaboration in designing, and that's what we are going to do up to tomorrow. For the next 6 days, we'll have an intense internal workshop on the new country program for international cooperation in Egypt. So that's mainly the reason why I cannot speak more about the topic in a concrete terms. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I mean, the whole sequence, the whole flow is quite comprehensive for us to be able to understand. Again, the inspiration that we'd be able to get out of the system and how to localize it and apply it here in Egypt. And we're really looking forward to the results of that 6-day planning, because I was bugging Marwa as we were building towards this, telling her, please send me some more information. She said, listen, I mean, give us another 10 days and we'll be able to come back and see what it is. And, you know, I will say this to Seba, that once this is ready, let's put another seminar together and really go into more details of that inspiration, international cooperation between Egypt and Switzerland. Thank you so much. And of course, Mahmoud Beibazan, thank you for hosting us, and thank you for this wonderful initiative. Always enjoy to be in Seba, but I always like to say you wear two hats, and I know that when you're in a Seba event, you like to wear the Seba hat, but please, since I have you with me here today, and I did engage members of the Swiss private sector this morning, some in services, some in industry, of course. You also, you run one of the very unique companies in Egypt, a Swiss company, Hero. You have gone, you've seen what has happened during COVID. We've had conversations also under the platform of Seba on the impact of COVID on your business, but we never had the opportunity to ask you the same questions I asked Schindler and Lafarge this morning and East. What kind of challenges do you face as Hero here in Egypt when it comes to matching your labor requirements with the actual supply of labor or technical skilled labor in Egypt?
I think we all share the same challenges in a way. Maybe even more with Hero being outside Greater Cairo. We're in Qalyubiyya. We are in a very agricultural area, so the competition with Tuk-Tuk is very hard, I can tell you. So it is kind of the same issues that we have. But I still hold to what I said in the morning, that we see young Egyptians and Egypt have been exporting labor to the GCC for a very long time. And I think with the change that is happening today, we need more skilled labor. We now have much more competition from the Far East in the GCC areas. But also if we look at the I would say, the dream of the president when he said he wants to go for 100 billion exports. This means we need these trained technicians to be able to achieve this dream, because without them we will not be able to do the proper production to be able to reach these numbers. So it's I think we all face the same challenges, but I believe what Valerie, I build on what Valerie had mentioned, that what Dr. Mohammed had said, this partnership between the private and the government, the private sector and the government, is essential for the success. This is what Valerie has mentioned, what Dr. Mohammed had showed, the success stories of several institutes that were done basically in partnership between the government and the public sector, and he offering giving the offer and the hand to new companies to join. And I think it's a very good idea also, not only about a new company, because this will limit this to certain size of companies, but rather have consortiums or group of companies who share certain needs. Then it would be making more sense economically to do that. So I think the challenge is with all of us. I share what my colleagues in the morning had said, the challenge they have. And one of the things we mentioned also during the discussion in the break, that in the GCC or in other countries there is a discipline that is there due to the laws, and this is also an important part of the success, because we have to have a clear, proper laws that control the relationship between both the employee and the company. Both ways. I mean, you have good and bad apples on both sides. It's not about one side, but you will need these laws that give the confidence to both the employee as well as the company to invest in the employee.
Again, we're going back. This is not so much on the education regulations and laws and reforms, but maybe on the labor laws and reforms in labor laws themselves, where they give the advantage both to companies. I mean, again, it's one of the issues that we all face in spending so much time and so much money in training people that will either leave you, and it's the right, of course, so go get married. We see that a lot. That it's not just married and come back. It's I've stopped my career, and there's a lot of that happens, especially in the textile sector that we've seen over the years. But where you find the challenges heavier, if you want to call it, is the problem between the private sector and private sector coming together, building consortium and pushing this forward, because I know private sector are flexible. I mean, we can get this out. Or is it the regulations and the laws that the government has in place that is hindering these consortiums? I mean, Dr. Meghed was saying that we need to balance it more when we have consortiums, just in case they're a problem. But where do you see the challenges? Is it a private sector challenge, or is it a private sector to laws, regulations placed by the government?
No, I think the challenge is that we didn't give it the proper focus. We didn't see light at the end of the day. I mean, for the private sector, we work with budgets, with plans, with times. Okay, when you come and talk to me about a dream, that's great, but how can I integrate this in my plans? But when we talk today about solid plans, when we see on the ground development that's happening, when we see a vision from the government and an investment and plans, then we are coming together. But if this seminar was just about another dream, then it's different. So what I see today is that we see on the ground things that have been done, plans are in place. So this, I think, is part of a start of the success, and this will bring me to the point that we today we have. I'm very glad to announce that we have a core team, And the core team is led by Mr. Solomon, the CEO of Lafarge. So also somebody hands-on business, and he has a great passion. I'm very happy he accepted this because he has a great passion for TVET. And also, I'm glad to announce that Mr. Ahmed Al-Ashmawi has also joined this core team. And today I promote and say for the rest of the companies, for the rest of the sectors, whether it is private sector, whether it's government, whether it's academia, please join us because we are trying to set a core team to put things on ground with plans and deliverables.
Very good. I have again run out of time, and I wish I really had more time on all of these sessions. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your
Ashraf, I just
attention.
would like to add just one more thing also is that at SEBA, part of what the transformation of digitalization that we're doing, we're going to have an online platform where it's possible for both companies and people who wants to apply to do recruitment for white collar, blue collar, but also for apprenticeship.
And this is by setting up a database, a digitized database
exactly.
where people can go in, register, and then match those needs for the workers and the companies. That is that
yes.
how I understood it?
Yes.
What kind of support do you need? How can we, as the rest of the private sector, how can we support you?
Well, I think that
because data collection, because data collection, you understand that one of the most, let's say, expensive and rare commodities in Egypt is information.
Yeah, very true. But what we're saying is that the core committee, this is also what we're doing. With the committee today, what we need is that we need more stakeholders to join and really give some of their time and effort into this, because this is the way to go. So I ask again stakeholders to please join Mr. Solomon and Mr. Ahmed Al-Ashmawi in their efforts to make it happen.
Thank you, Ahmed Bey. Thank you for the great effort by SEBA, and again, Your Excellency, thank you very much for having us. I'll take one or two questions off the floor before we have Mr. Adrian Hari, the Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Switzerland, conclude our seminar of the day. So any questions off the floor, or have we covered everything in our 3 sessions? Fantastic. I think we've covered most of it, and in all cases, we are always in engagement together. If there's anything, SEBA's around, the embassy's around, we're all around, and we hope to engage at this level throughout 2021 for a better Egypt. And we thank our international partners for all the support that they've given us, the inspiration that we have, and it is up to us as Egyptians to build our nation with the potential that we see it deserves as a global economic leader, not just in the region, I mean globally. So thank you very, very much, Dr. Maged, for being with us. And Bazan, thank you. Valerie, thank you. And Adrian, would you like to conclude? We won't take a 5-minute break.
I would say also we would like to thank the embassy for the effort and for the organization and for everything they have done for TVET.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Merci جدا. Thank you.
working, yes. Well, Excellencies, dear colleagues and CEOs and all the partners who join us online and are probably still with us or already going to bed in Australia, I would like to thank you all tremendously for your very active participation in this seminar. I'm very proud actually also for the embassy to have organized it. I want to thank my team and Ambassador Garnier for this very successful seminar. While you are digesting, I'm also digesting now the outcomes will not be too long of the seminar. I think definitely, Mahmoud, we are beyond the dream phase here from what we've seen today in these very vivid discussions. Maybe to take out 3 reflections. I would say that first of all, in order to have a successful development of a sustainable TVET system, you would have first, as we have seen, a political will which is necessary, a top-down approach if you want, provided by a government of a country such as in Egypt, an education policy and legal framework. I think the constitution could not be clearer. The serious policy of transformation of the sector is here. We've seen this impressive 5-pillar strategy of the government, but also what has already been implemented practically with the specialized applied technological schools that were presented to us. Second, the bottom-up approach will just be as important. A mentality, a readiness of the labor market and the companies and societies to improve technical education. I think here the word is organic. It should be rooted in society. It must be growing over the years, as we've seen in Valerie's presentation of the Swiss system. And we had a very clear identification of the challenges here in the panels 1 and panels 2, where it's clear that a system has to move on with the rapid industrial evolution or revolution, and it has to become more sophisticated. And at the same time, the mentality has to change. We heard the word of stigmas against vocational training, so this change in culture is needed. And I think we saw in panel 2 specifically that there are some very promising developments and projects in this direction with the very, let's say, motivated people who are presenting, moderating, and also involved in these projects that existed. I think the number of the 11,000 applications of teenagers to the SGE Sewedi Technical School speak for themselves. I think that there we could see some very promising inputs, and it's probably also an occasion to encourage companies to work with the schools that were presented by the Minister, His Excellency the Minister. Finally, and I think most importantly as a third takeaway, the importance of a platform and this constant exchange between the schools, the companies and the government is crucial to stay up to date, to have this constant exchange, to understand what's going on a market, to enable a government to plan 5 or 10 years ahead, and to keep this organic work or this, I would say, melting together of the different interests and challenges alive. I think we're quite happy to have today started a bit with such a platform here, but also very happy to hear that now this core team is being set up. I would like to thank Seba and all the individuals who are showing an initiative to head this team, but participate in it actively tremendously. I think this is a very important step. Of course, such a platform is not just independent and ad hoc. You might connect with others and other initiatives that are going on in this country, as we've heard today, with different international partners and other countries. From the Swiss government perspective, there are maybe 3 follow-ups with which we can conclude here. The first, most importantly, I would say, is that we really work and continue to keep this dialogue going between the businesses, the government, and the schools. Mentioning the core team again here, which provides this very important platform. We would also encourage on this occasion and show the great potential for partnerships that resulted from these discussions with the schools that were presented by the government and the different companies who are in their specific sectors looking at models to work together. I think today presented quite some options. And as we know from the international cooperation at the embassy, that some of these models have already been developed more concretely. Another follow-up would be a more institutionalized dialogue between our governments on how to improve the TVET system based on very specific challenges identified. Here I think it's important to mention that the Swiss government, who would here rather be represented by the State Secretariat of Education, Research and Innovation, can offer knowledge transfer and analysis. It can draw from a lot of experience with other partners in other countries with similar setups. Heard of Mexico, Indonesia or Singapore, and it can offer a broker role. This is very important because the government, the Swiss government particularly, will not implant a Swiss model into the Egyptian economy. That's not the way it works, and as Valérie Liechti explained also during her presentation, but a serious scientific and diplomatic dialogue in which we can identify these needs for knowledge transfer are met with great interest. It's clear the process needs to be homegrown. There's no size fits all, and it also will need a close cooperation with the international cooperation strategy, where we have the seminars coming up, as was explained now for the 21 to 24. And finally, a good start would already be to have technical visits from Egypt to Switzerland. This could also be accompanied by a media visit to show and present very concretely what's going on in specific areas, a visit of schools, and delegations who could exchange about the value and questions of culture and the values of technical education and training. With that, I have finished for now and wish you a good appetite. I would like to thank the panelists who did a tremendous job, as usual, who had a really direct approach and did not hesitate to ask the critical questions which are so important to bring this complex topic ahead. And I would like to thank the team of the embassy and all your active participation today. Also to the colleagues, if they are still listening abroad, in Lausanne, in Bern, from the Swiss government, in Australia. And thank you very much. I think it's a very promising next step that we took today. Thank you very much and have a bon appétit.
So we are officially closing the part before the lunch. I want also, in name of all of us, to give a big applause to Adrian Howe, our deputy who is now leaving us for a new assignment in New York. And I think it was a great work, a great seminar. And thank you again for all the participants.
Thank you.